Hello, my name's Kerry Kaplan, and I'm here with Swami Chetanananda for another session of News from the Heart. I've known this young man for quite a while, and I think we have an interesting topic for today. I've been associated with practice for a very long time, and as you, I've seen thousands of people come and go. And whenever my friends who are not part of the community ask me about it, and they say, what do I need to know? I say, well, we live in America, and everybody wants the silver bullet. Everybody wants the pill. I take this pill and I'm happy. My experience is, and I think what happens to so many people when they come is they realize, oh my God, I've got to do this. I can't just think about it. And I have so many friends, and I think I've told you stories about traveling and meeting spiritual people. And we talk about spiritual practice. We talk about spiritualism. And we talk and we talk and we talk, and then I say, what's your practice? And they say, I read books. So I just wondered, given the context of where we're at as a culture and how long you've been at this, what is it? What would you say to people that are just tuning in literally for the first time? How do you make the shift from give me the pill to I need to do something and I need your help? What would you say to get started?
There are a few simple things about our practice. Well, the first is that if we are going to deal with the two-sided issue that each of us face in our life, the two-sided issue being the tensions in ourselves and the limitations of the opportunity that we are presented with as a life experience, and then we are going to have to do some growing. And in fact, you know, you've heard me say quite a lot over the years, human beings are in this world for one reason and one reason only. Like every living being, every living plant, every living animal, you know, every self-organized, self-sustaining, self-aware phenomenon, many of which in our environment we are not aware of. You know, we must grow in order to dissolve the structural boundaries between our hearts and our minds and the circumstance that we have been planted in. You know, each of us comes to this world planted in a particular soil, and from that soil, you know, with little instruction or support from anyone, we somehow must absorb enough nourishment that we can begin to make some informed choices for ourselves. And the only way we are going to make beneficial, informed choices for ourselves is by developing the capacity to actually feel who we are. You know, we have to have the capacity to make contact with our hearts. Now, one of the struggles in that is, you know, that the circumstances that we are presented with very often do not provide us with even the nourishment or the information about that is necessary to make an authentic contact with ourselves. Mostly what Americans are informed about is they're too fat, they're too skinny, they're too stupid, they're too poor, they're too ugly, they're too something
That's not right.
that's not right, and disqualifies them from having any real possibility of success in the world. And worldly success for most people has been everything. I think that's really changing, because I think the ideology of the rich in America is, you know, sort of being moved around to the degree that they don't want people to expect any upward mobility anymore, because
there isn't
any, and they don't want.
The biggest change in our life that we grew up, there was a middle class. People had real jobs, and they could come in my dad's furniture store or your dad's pharmacy and
afford stuff. Yeah, they could afford the medicine, or they could afford the lawn chairs that my dad sold, or whatever, you know. So
what do we do?
The first thing we have to do is understand that we're in this world to grow. And just that understanding alone, Carrie, will, in any moment of confusion, bring up the appropriate question, which is, what is growing in this moment? What attitude and what behavior do I have to engage and express to actually demonstrate my intention to grow? Now, there are always two sides to this coin, and one side is an inner side. We have to be able to start to feel in our heart, past, you know, deeper than that, well, the ouch, but after you dissolve the ouch, what's there? I mean, there's still a solid, you feel into your heart, and it's hard. Yeah. And you have to be able to feel into your heart deeply enough that your heart softens and starts to open and begins to inform you of what it is that you really feel and what it is that you really want to do from the core of yourself. Not from your head.
Not from the brain fever.
Right, because thinking, you know, thinking is, it should support feeling.
Right.
Thinking should support the expression of feeling, not the reverse.
I heard you say that. Now, would you know, I'm not too bright. So what happens is we walk around all day with this radio going up and down the band, and so we're stimulated by something, and so we react.
Exactly true.
So what you're suggesting is, and I'm assuming it's the more important the issue is, the more important it is for you to stop, take a breath, feel your heart, and make the decision from, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
From a deeper place.
Okay.
I think, you know, very simply put, in the biggest picture, what we have to do is begin to live a life of inspiration rather than reaction. Because a life of reaction, reacting to our circumstance, always brings us to the level of our circumstance, which is always stupid.
Or at least trying to keep us the same.
You know, reacting is 100% of the time stupid.
Right.
You know, it is only when we take in our circumstance, and we feel what that feels like, and we feel what it feels like in relationship to who we really are, or how much of ourselves we can come in contact with in that moment, we will begin to see two things. One, our circumstance is stupid. The second thing, there is clearly more possibility, there's more potential within ourselves than our circumstance is allowing us to demonstrate. And so it means that because we are feeling and feeling and feeling from within ourselves, and because we're inspired to express something fine from within ourselves, something potentially really beautiful from within ourselves. Anybody who really feels their heart, to the degree that it softens and starts to open, will feel some beauty that will surprise them.
That's what I've been doing wrong.
That's exactly right.
That is, wow. And I want to come back to this issue of starting and maintaining a practice, because I live here. There's a beautiful meditation room 80 feet from here. There's all kinds of opportunities for me, in spite of my sloth, to participate. How does someone who's watching this very simply make that shift?
You know, first of all, there are dozens of these kinds of videos that I do from on the internet, and you know, millions of others from other people. And I produced probably at least 2, probably 3 guided meditation videos.
And people can get this.
And people can get it, and it's free.
All right.
And all they have to do is sit down and start to do that. Do that every day for 2 months, and you know, listen to the video every day for 2 months until it's completely become a pattern in your brain, and then walk around in your day, and every time you experience some confusion or distress, you know, start to engage that pattern of introspection that you have absorbed from somebody who's teaching, breathing and feeling it. And you know, what will happen is that from within yourself, you will be surprised to know that there is intelligence that you are not ordinarily accessing, which, because you make contact with yourself, will begin to express itself. And from within you, you will simply know the appropriate way to proceed. And further, nobody's perfect at this in the beginning. So regularly you will get punched in the nose. And you will have to have the ability, rather than defending yourself, to take in that feedback and develop yourself as a skillful person in the expression of your own creative energy. And in being skillful and expressing your own creative energy, you will find within yourself an abundance that completely transcends any understanding that you were ever, I want to say, gifted with. That's the nicest way I can put it. I want to gifted with from your family circumstance.
I had a lot of gifts. Did you have some?
Yeah. Yeah, my parents breathed cigarette smoke into my face 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from the time I was born till the time I left home, just for starters.
Right, exactly. Thank you. I want to just raise one issue related to that, because you're talking about going from current state to a change of state, which is making decisions based upon feeling. You said something at the last July retreat that I don't remember you saying. And I think it's really important for people to try to make that shift from where they're at to making decisions based on the deepest part of them first. And that is, you said, everybody has resistance to doing this. I have resistance to doing this. And I think that's important for people to understand, particularly when they're starting. And to me, it's related to the happy pill thing. Because I know, I always thought, well, after I've done this for a year or two.
Yeah.
and I'm raising this issue just so, because given the way we're programmed, if we're not enlightened in 3 weeks, we think we're failures, because we're so used to instant gratification. So
indeed.
Yeah.
Growing is a lifetime endeavor. Think of the really extraordinary organisms that you have ever encountered in your life.
Like the tree at Laurelhurst Park that's been there forever.
Or the oak tree right outside this building that's been there as long as the tree in Laurelhurst Park. I mean, these oak trees, that walnut tree, the largest poplar tree in the state of Oregon, Indiana state tree, by the way, the poplar tree, is, you know, they've all been here for 115 years. These are 115-year-old trees around here. But, you know, remember that you and I walked in the Central Valley of California among redwoods that were like 350 years old, or sequoias that are, you know, 650 years old. And real growth is a lifetime endeavor.
You know, you mean there's no finish line? It's not a mathematical equation we haven't figured out.
Well, for most Americans, I think the finish line is when you get a level of income that generates a degree of interest that you can't possibly spend in a year.
So it's he or she who has the most toys when they die wins?
That is the prevailing unspoken opinion.
All right, I have to summarize here because we're having way too much fun. Thank you again. I've been doing this practice for a long time, and what you just said was about that shift, because, you know, I have this, flatter myself, Woody Allen kind of brain. It was very helpful. Thank you, and I hope everybody else there got something.
I'll say,
feel your heart and do it over and over again.
I'll say one thing to finish, and that is, as we have matured in our practice, it has become increasingly meaningful and important to me, to the degree that I don't really look forward to doing hardly anything else but my practice. And it is our ability to make contact with the abundance, the creativity, the beauty within ourselves that, you know, transforms our life, however materially limited it might be, into an astonishingly, surprisingly fulfilling experience.